So the first thing you have to do is figure out what the slopes are, and then figure out if they're the same, parallel. If they are negative reciprocals of each other, then they're perpendicular. And if they're just a number other than one of those two things, then it's neither. They just intersect. And so for this first one, this ended up being neither. If I looked at the equations of the lines, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what my y-intercept is. You can figure out your y-intercept by just looking and seeing where it crosses. It crosses at 5. That's where we got that 5 from. And then pick another point where it crosses. It crosses right here. You go down 1 and over 1, so negative 1 was my slope. So my first equation was y equals negative 1x plus 5. Y equals mx plus b. My second equation here, my y-intercept was negative 1. That's how we got this negative 1 right here. My slope, we'll just pick another point and walk to it. So if I pick this point right here, you see it's the only point. Why am I picking that point? Well, if I look, this crosses somewhere in between. Somewhere in between. The first place where it crosses directly on one that I can see exactly what it is right here. So that's why I chose that point. And then if you walk, you're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1, 2, 3. That's how we got 5/3. So that's how I got my equations. And then to answer the question, negative 1 and 5/3 are not the same, so it's not parallel. They are also not negative reciprocals of each other, so they're neither. And so you would have done that all the way across. And so for the next one, you would have gotten the same slope of negative 1/2, parallel. 6 and negative 1/6 are negative reciprocals, so those are perpendicular. And then this is a special case. One was y equals a number and one was x equals a number. And so those are automatically perpendicular. Those are special cases. It says write the slope-intercept form of the equation through the line and the given point with the given slope. To write the slope-intercept form of a line, you have to have m and you have to have b. If you have those two, you can write the equation of the line. They have only given you one of them. They've given you the m. Slope is your m. So the first thing we have to do is we have to solve for b. We are going to solve for b by plugging in the x, the y, and the m and solving for b. So we're going to say y, that's negative 3, equals m, that's negative 1, x, 5, plus b. We're just going to use basic algebra equation solving here to solve for b. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. To solve for b, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So my b is going to equal positive 2. I now have my m and I have my b. I'm going to plug those in to get the slope-intercept form of the line. Y equals mx plus b. And that is my answer here. And you can just say negative x in your answer key. You'll see it looks like this. Y equals negative x plus 2. That's the same thing as writing a negative 1 there. All right, for this one, you'll notice that they want you to write the slope-intercept form of this equation. But they did not give you either. They did not give you slope and they did not give you y-intercept. So we have to solve for our slope. And remember, our equation to solve for slope is to subtract your y's and then subtract your x's. So the first thing I need to do here is solve for what my slope actually is. So I'm going to solve for slope, and I'm going to say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right? So negative 2 minus 1 gives me negative 3. Negative 4 minus 5 gives me negative 9. That will simplify to positive 1/3. Positive 1/3. Okay? So once I have that, I can do the same process that I did on the first page. I can use my y equals mx plus b, or I can use my point slope, the thing that we have done before with solving this. That's what we did later on when we did parallel and perpendicular. You can do it either way. You can choose either of the points to do it. So I can choose either point 5, 1, or negative 4, negative 2 to do this, all right? I'm going to choose the first one. So if I want to do it the way I did it on the front, I'm going to use the slope-intercept to solve for b. I'm going to say y, positive 1, equals m. I just solved for that. That's 1/3 times my x plus b. And I'm going to solve for b. 1 equals 5 times 1/3 is 5/3 plus b. And then I am going to subtract 5/3 from both sides. It will cancel here. Subtract here. Remember, I need a common denominator, but 2 is nice and easy. 1 is the same thing as 3/3. All right? So that's easy to subtract when you have a 1 there. You just do your denominator over your denominator. So I have 3/3 minus 5/3. That's going to give me negative 2/3 as my b. I now have my m, and I have my b, and I can write the slope-intercept form. Y equals m x plus b, but b was negative, so I'm going to write minus 2/3 because my b was negative. And that is my answer there. So in this one, it says, write the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line described. All right? And they want it to go through the point negative 1, positive 3. And they want it to be parallel to the line y equals negative 2x minus 3. What do we know about parallel lines? Well, they have the same slope. So really, I just need to figure out what my slope is going to be. It's going to be the same as this line. What is the slope of this line? 2. So my slope is negative 2 for the line that I'm talking about. And so I have the point and my slope. Now you can use y equals mx plus b, but in this section, we used a new formula. Y minus my y value that I have for my point equals m times x minus the x value that I have for my point. So this is the x value I'm going to use, this is the y value I'm going to use, and this is the m I'm going to use. And once I have this, I don't have to solve for b. I just have to get y by itself if I use this equation. So I can say y minus my y value, that's 3, equals m times x minus my x value, which is negative 1. All right, minus a negative is plus a positive. So now I just have to get y by itself, and I'm actually done here. I can distribute that negative 2. So over here I have y minus 3 equals negative 2 times x. That's negative 2x. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. And if they want slope-intercept, they just want y by itself. So I'm going to add that 3 over. So I get y equals negative 2x, and negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. And so that is another way to do this. You can use your point slope, and then you don't have to solve for b. You just put your point and your slope in and get y by itself, and you're done. All right, so this wants me to write the equation of the line that goes through the point 5, negative 1. And it is perpendicular to this line. So all I need from that line is to figure out what the slope is that I'm going to use. If it's perpendicular, I am going to take the slope that I have from this line and I'm going to flip it upside down. Right now it's 2/3. I'm going to say 3/2, 3 over 2. It was negative. I'm going to make it positive. So whatever the sign is, plus or minus, you're going to do the opposite, and whatever the number is, you're going to flip it upside down if it is perpendicular. So if it is perpendicular, you're going to take the slope of that line, flip it upside down, and change the sign. And that is the slope you're going to use here. And I can do it exactly the same way I just did my other one. I can say y minus my y value equals the m that I have decided to use here, which is my perpendicular one, negative reciprocal, m x minus my x value. And then once again, I just have to solve for y in this case. I don't have to solve for b when I use point slope. I just have to get y by itself, and it will already have it figured out for me when I do it this way. So I'm going to distribute here. I'm going to simplify this side, y minus a negative 1. I'll write y plus 1. 3 halves times x. And then 3 halves times negative 5 is negative 15. I already have my negative there, 15 halves. So remember, that's like 5 over 1. 3 times 5, 2 times 1. All right, when you're multiplying fractions, think of it as over 1 if it is a whole number. And then I just have to get y by itself. So subtract 1. Once again, I need a common denominator. 1 over 1, multiply by 2, so that's 2 over 2. All right. So I have on the left-hand side, I do have my y by myself at this point. My 3 halves x will not change. And I have negative 15 minus 2. That's going to give me negative 17 halves. Negative 17 halves. And that is my answer here. And once again, you could have done y equals mx plus b and solve for b and then plugged it back in like we did on the first couple pages. You can do them either way, y equals mx plus b or your point slope, and just solve. Yeah, so when you are doing parallel and perpendicular, you do not use that at all. You can just cross it out.